What's up everyone, welcome to week 2 of the Lusive Arts music production course. Hopefully you survived week 1, I'm sure you did. It was quite simple to get you started. We just looked at some drum beats, how to bring some sounds in, and hopefully you've made your drum beat for your specific song as well. So this week we're going to dive a little deeper into Ableton and we're going to look at bass lines and also lead synths and melodies for your track. So after this week your track is going to start to take quite a bit more shape because you have a drum kit, you have a bass line, and you'll have a lead melody in there hopefully by the end of the week. But yeah, to kick things off today, I'm just going to show you guys some really basic synthesis, what oscillators are and how they create different waveforms, what they sound like, and how you can incorporate those into your own productions. I'm not going to dive too deep into sound design itself because sound design can be another whole 3-month course just on its own. It is quite in-depth, but I'm going to show you guys the quickest and easiest way to get the sounds that you like into your track without having to know all the ins and outs of a synthesizer. So just to kick things off here, I'm going to open up a little thing called Operator. This is one of Ableton's built-in synthesizers. This comes with Ableton. So if you look down the bottom here, we have 4 oscillators. I'm just going to be focusing on this bottom one to start. This is the only one making noise at the moment. As you can see, it's the only one that has the levels up. So if I come over here to the wave, at the moment it has Syn, which is telling us it's a sine wave, and you can tell that by this shape here. So if you see this shape in a synthesizer, that's a sine wave. I'm going to go over the 3 basic waveforms. So this is a sine wave here. I'm just going to play a few notes. So a sine wave is a pure tone. It doesn't have upper harmonics or frequencies. It is simply plays the tone which you're playing. Sine waves are very useful for bass lines. Actually, they can be used anywhere. They can be used as pads as well, or even leads. But predominantly, if you want a sub, a sine wave is going to be the way to go. So what you'll do is actually pitch this right down. And hopefully, if you're wearing decent headphones or if you're on speakers, you should be able to hear this. But yeah, think of a sine wave as a pure tone. It's a single frequency. Now the next waveform I'm going to show you guys is a square wave. So I'm just going to grab this square wave here, and as you can see, the shape is like this. I'm going to put on screen a full square waveform so you can see what the actual full shape would be like if it continued to play it out. But the square waveform sounds like this. So you can hear it's quite, I guess it's video gamey in a sense. It has more upper harmonics than a sine wave, so you can hear there's a lot more going on to the actual sound itself. It's not just a single tone. This is handy for, and again, these waveforms can be used anywhere, but you can use a square for a bass as well. Gives you something a little bit crunchier. If I go a little bit higher, you get the little beepy kind of video gamey sound. If you stack multiple together, you can kind of make a cool lead out of them, or yeah, you can use them anywhere. But essentially that's a square wave. Next one I'm going to show you guys is a saw. So a saw wave you can hear is a lot crunchier. It's a lot crunchier than the square wave, and obviously way more crunchier than a sine wave. The saw wave has a lot more upper harmonics. And you can tell it has a lot more upper harmonics just by looking in here at this little waveform display. So if you see when I go on saw, these are all full. When I shift it to a square, you can see now it's kind of halved. And obviously when I have it on a sine, it's just a single tone. So those are your 3 main waveforms. There are obviously way more waveforms and you can create custom waveforms, but just to keep it simple for now, you've got your sines, you got your square waves, and you got your saw waves. I'll just bring up an EQ as well, just to make it simpler for you guys to see. When I play a sine wave, you can see it's just playing a single tone. When I switch this to a square, you can see it's playing the single tone, but then it's playing the upper harmonics as well. And when I switch this to a saw, you can see it's playing the root frequency, and it's got a lot more upper harmonics, so it gives it that crunchier sound, especially at the top end. As a general guideline, I would probably use the sine wave as a bass for a sub, and then the square and saw you can use as leads or pads or whatever you want. Again, these sounds can be twisted and shaped in any way with audio effects later on, but just keep that in mind for now. Now I'm going to introduce you guys to one more thing when it comes to synthesis, and that is something called ADSR. So this refers to the envelope, and basically it's how the sound is going to be produced to you. So when I'm talking about ADSR, let's go over the first one. So we got A, which is attack, D, which is decay, S, which is sustain, and R, which is release. So I'm just using a simple sine wave here. I'll just go up an octave so you can hear it. Let's say something like that. Actually, I'll make it a square. I'll make it a saw wave just so you can hear it a little bit easier. Now I'll come back to the envelope here. I'm still an operator. Now let's start with the first one, attack. So you can see it's currently set to 0 milliseconds. This means as soon as I press my keyboard, as soon as I play a note, it's going to hit full volume straight away. That sound's going to be instant. There's going to be no delay. It's just going to come full on. So if I start to push this out a bit, let's say 50 milliseconds, you can hear there's a slight delay from when the sound starts to when it climbs. And you can use this visual guide as a reference. So you can see when I push the attack up, instead of the sound just being full straight away, it's actually getting pushed out a bit. So if I put this up quite a bit, let's say 5 seconds. Now you can see it's taking 5.79 seconds to go from 0, no sound, to full volume. So quite simple with attack. Just keep that in mind. You're going to see this, like I said, you're going to see it a lot in all the other plugins, whether it be in Ableton or third-party plugins. Pretty much everything uses ADSR. So the next one we're going to look at is decay. Now, you're not going to notice anything with decay until we change the sustain. So to hear it a lot more prominently, I'm going to bring the sustain right down to 0, so it's going to be making no sound once it hits this point after the decay. So what the decay is once it makes the sound, how long does it take to get to the sustain level? So if we set this to 7 seconds, it's going to make a sound, and then it's going to take 7 seconds to get right down to our sustain volume, which I've set to minus infinite dB, which is essentially making no noise at all. So hopefully that makes sense. If I put the sustain up, let's say, so we can hear it a bit, what it's going to do now is it's going to make a sound at full volume, then it's going to take 7 seconds to hit minus 20 dB here. So it will still make a sound once I keep holding my note. So if I set this to say 2 seconds and bring my sustain right down, now it's hitting full volume, and then it's taking 2 seconds to go to nothing, basically. So that's the decay. Again, you won't hear anything if you have your sustain right up full. Now we've pretty much just gone over sustain, but I'll go over it again. So what sustain is basically what volume, if you hold your note, is it going to sustain at. I'm going to hold my note here, and I'm just going to change the sustain. So if you wanted a little blip, you would have your sustain all the way down. And now basically the attack's hitting, and it's taking 800 milliseconds to hit nothing. So that gives you that kind of blip sound. You can make this quicker as well. So that's sustain. Basically, where is it going to hold volume? The last one here, so we got ADS, now we got R, which is release. This is once I let go of my note, or once I let go of my key, how long is it going to take to fade out? So if I have this set to say 4 seconds, let's put the sustain up again. I'm going to hold the note I'm going to release now. So you can see I let go of my key, I wasn't touching anything, and it still took 4 seconds to go away, or infinite dB. So I'm going to hold the key again, and then I'm going to let go. And I'm going to let go now. So you can see then it took about a second to hit minus infinite dB. So that's the release. Once you let go of your note or your key, how long is it going to take to fade out? So hopefully that's all made sense. We've covered ADSR, we've covered the 3 basic waveforms. As I said, there are a lot more, but just for now, keep those in mind because those are going to be the most common ones that you see in your day-to-day production. And what we're going to do now is take a look at some basses.